Hi everyone, and welcome to week 3 of English 102. You all did an excellent job with the discussion board post last week. One quick reminder that your research project should feature topics that intersect with popular culture in some way. For instance, you might want to talk about Latino women's bilingual reading practices, and in that project, you might talk about how reading practices are portrayed in hit TV shows like Jane the Virgin or Netflix's One Day at a Time. I'm impressed by the range and specificity of many of your research project ideas so far, and I'm excited to learn more about all these topics from your projects. Last week, we dove into our major projects in the course. This week, you will continue to learn more about research through the second and last research DIY tutorial and readings. There is no new discussion board prompt this week, but you should take time to read the feedback you received from peers and myself on last week's brainstorming discussion board post. Begin conducting preliminary research towards the infographic, which is due in week 4. Last week, I offered you some definitions and ideas surrounding the terms research, exigence and significance, and audience analysis. This week, I want to spend a few minutes talking about rhetorical analysis, which you'll learn more about when you read Carol's Backpacks versus Briefcases article. So let's start with rhetoric. What does that even mean? We can understand rhetoric as the way we use language to communicate to get people to think or act a particular way. One could argue, and many have, that every act of communication employs rhetoric to some degree. What if we conduct a rhetorical analysis of this announcement as an example? To do this, we need to think about 4 key ideas. Contextualizing, or thinking about what we know about the situation. Assumptions, or what the speaker, in this case me, assumes about the audience, in this case you. The argument, or in other words, what's the point? And what we might still need to know or further research to fully understand the piece of rhetoric. Okay, that's a lot. Let's break it down. In this case, we know the context of this announcement is this English 102 online class. The speaker, me, has created both a textual and video announcement to get at the key ideas of this week in multiple modes to reach different kinds of learners, aka you all. This also begins to answer the assumptions question. I assume you are all here to learn about writing and rhetoric and thus talk about these terms regularly. I also assume you might not know the terms I'm describing in this video, or if you do, that you might like a review. I also assume that not everyone likes to engage with a written announcement, and some might appreciate video, and some might like both modes. I also closed captioned these announcements for accessibility with the assumption that some folks might like to follow along this way. So what's the argument of this announcement? It's to implore you to think about rhetoric and how you might analyze what you read and write about in this class, such as the research you will engage for your research projects. So what do we still need to know? In this case, you should dig into the readings for this week, as well as the second research DIY tutorial to better understand some of the ideas I'm talking about here. Does this make sense? Feel free to email me if you have more questions and thoughts about this topic. I'm happy to chat more. Speaking of emails, I want to make a few quick notes about this. Mini lesson time! Okay. So emails are an important and regular rhetorical situation you engage in college and or workplaces in the 21st century. It's important to have a sense of the conventions of what makes an appropriate email in college and in the professional world. Here's a list of some of these major conventions. First, you should always have a clear and direct subject line followed by appropriate open and closing salutations, such as, "Hello, Professor Kumari." Think about the number of times you might receive emails that are not directly addressed to you or have really vague subject lines, and think about how often you delete those. Personalization means folks are more likely to open and read a message. Next, be sure to type in clear and complete sentences. Use appropriate punctuation and only use exclamation points sparingly, or just don't. Texts and emails should be broken up into short paragraphs, and you should include a closing salutation such as thanks or best. A few pro tips. Proofread your messages and double check that you are sending it to the right person. Typos and the wrong recipient can create a very embarrassing situation. So here's an example. Note the clear email subject line that directs me, the audience in this case, to the fact that this email is about a homework assignment question. Next, there's a kind salutation of "Dear Professor Kumari," followed by 2 clear paragraphs about the situation in question. Finally, the writer, Lily Smith in this case, includes a closing salutation of "Hope you can help" and signs their name. I'm pointing these ideas out because it's important to learn how to engage appropriately in this genre, since it might be the most regular genre you use in your future college career and professional life. Okay, I'll let you get to work. Please feel free to reach out via email throughout the week. I look forward to reading your responses and learning more about your projects as they develop. Good luck!